Tonight, the fallout after President Biden's disastrous performance.
I know, like millions of Americans know, when you get knocked down, you get back up.
The question every voter should be asking themselves today is not whether Joe Biden can survive a 90-minute debate performance, but whether America can survive 4 more years of crooked Joe Biden in the White House.
The political hangover being felt by Democrats all across the country, wringing their hands over President Biden's debate performance last night. Biden himself saying he doesn't debate as well as he used to, trying to assure his party he's remaining in the race despite calls to step aside, as Trump took the opportunity to put the squeeze on Biden. But just how much will that debate really matter? We've got the newest 538 data revealing how last night landed with voters. Plus, from a decision that could change the course of hundreds of charged insurrectionists to criminalizing homelessness nationwide, we're covering the developments from the Supreme Court that is having implications all across the nation. And
I cried. Tears of joy that we were finally no longer second-class citizens.
it's a secure environment for the LGBTQ+ community, setting records as one of the first towns in the South where gay couples have married. We're going to take you to Eureka Springs, Arkansas, as Pride Month comes to a close. And good evening, everyone. I'm Phil Lipoff, and tonight for Lindsay Davis. Thanks so much for streaming with us. We are following those stories and, of course, much more, including the first criminal charges stemming from the massacre at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, that left 19 children and 2 teachers dead. Plus, the impending storms threatening record travel as we go into the 4th of July holiday. And Hollywood's black actors in hair wars, their fight for equity on the set, demanding qualified professionals to bring out their best. But we are going to begin with the fallout after that historic first debate of the campaign season tonight. Even top Democrats have described President Biden's performance as troubling at best, and it has prompted a question some once viewed as unthinkable. Should he step aside as his party's nominee? On the Republican side, former President Trump made repeated false statements throughout the debate. The two men frosty with one another, to say the least, from the start, and there was no audience in the room to break that tension. Today, a very different Joe Biden showed up at a campaign rally in North Carolina, acknowledging his age, but giving a fired-up defense. At his own rally in North Carolina today, Donald Trump doubling down on his attacks. And late today, the New York Times editorial board released an op-ed saying, quote, to serve his country, President Biden should leave the race. Just one of quite a few published across the country today saying the same thing. So, what happens now? Standing by to break it all down, and we begin with Rachel Scott.
Tonight, before a cheering crowd in North Carolina, President Biden acknowledging his shaky performance on the debate stage, but vowing to press on in his campaign.
I don't walk as easy as I used to. I don't speak as smoothly as I used to. I don't debate as well as I used to. But I know what I do know. I know how to tell the truth. I know right from wrong. And I know how to do this job. I know how to get things done. And I know, like millions of Americans know, when you get knocked down, you get back up.
Biden seeking to reassure his supporters and control the wave of panic sweeping through the Democratic Party after his repeated stumbles during the debate.
Making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
Donald Trump piling on.
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either.
Today, the Biden team admitting the president had, quote, a bad night.
Listen, we've got 130 days, I'm counting, until Election Day. 130 days. And this race will not be decided by one night in June.
Publicly, top Democrats declaring their allegiance.
I will never turn my back on President Biden.
Step down after the debate performance last night? Should he step aside?
But privately, a different story. One Democrat in Congress calling Biden's performance a disaster. Behind the scenes, questions about whether Biden should quit the race so another Democrat can run. Late today, perhaps trying to put that talk to rest, former President Barack Obama weighing in saying, "Bad debate nights happen. Trust me, I know. But this election is still a choice between someone who knows right from wrong and will still give it to the American people straight and someone who lies through their teeth for his own benefit." Last night didn't change that.
Donald Trump.
On the debate stage, Trump's performance an avalanche of lies and distortions. He continued to defend those convicted in the riot at the Capitol on January 6th and repeatedly dodged questions on whether he would accept the results of the coming election.
If it's a fair and legal and good election, absolutely. I would have much rather accepted these, but the fraud and everything else was ridiculous.
Tonight in Virginia, mocking Biden's debate performance.
Joe Biden spent the entire week at Camp David resting, working, studying. He studied very hard. He studied so hard that he didn't know what the hell he was doing.
But today, the president insisting,
I would not be running again if I didn't believe with all my heart and soul I can do this job. Because quite frankly,
there in North Carolina, the crowd was with him. Yes, you can, they chanted. Yes, you can.
And Rachel joins us now. Rachel, you cover Capitol Hill every day, and you have a lot of sources. We've all just seen that New York Times op-ed saying the president should step aside for the good of the party. What are your sources telling you?
Phil, I could tell you that sources during the debate were sending these one-word texts: bad, disaster, nightmare. So there is real concern within the Democratic Party tonight and questions about whether President Biden should step aside. But then on the other end of that, I talked to some sources very close to the president tonight, and they say the only man that can make that decision is President Biden himself. And right now, he is showing no signs of backing down. In fact, I'm told that he's eager to get back up on the debate stage in September, but he still has to win over people in his party and certainly people out in the country, those independent voters, those undecided voters who do have some real questions after last night, Phil.
Yeah, that's the key. All right, Rachel Scott from Washington, D.C. Rachel, thank you. To talk with us more about the fallout, joining us now is Marcia Espinosa, the former Assistant Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security. Marcia, it's good to see you again. Just right off the bat, what did you think? What are you hearing about last night?
What I'm hearing and what I think is that Biden had an uncharacteristically bad night. But the election is not won by one 90-minute debate. It's won by the lasting policies and characters of the president. And Biden has shown us for years during his presidency and vice presidency that he's working on behalf of us. So did we all want him to come out swinging and show Trump for the liar that he is? Yes, just like my husband wants the Dodgers to win every time they go on the field. But sometimes that doesn't happen. So Biden got right back up again today and is back on the campaign trail with the energy that he normally has. So one rough debate is not the sum total of the person for his record. I mean, let's look back at all of Trump's gaffes. He lied for 90 minutes straight. He made very little sense. He didn't answer questions. And then he tried to blame everything on migrants. He tried to go back and make everything about the border. So if Democrats have to choose between someone who talks a little slower but has principles and honesty, as opposed to someone who is just lying and xenophobic and plans to end democracy as we know it, I think we'll take the former.
You say if Democrats have to choose. I take from your answer that you don't think he should step aside. And we heard in Rachel's story there that he would be the only one to make that decision. If he made that decision, do you think it's likely that they could find someone, a new candidate, in time?
I think, let's be clear, Biden is the Democratic nominee. He is our candidate. And Democrats need to stop hiding behind anonymous sources and anonymous quotes and rally together behind the president, who had one very bad night, but has for years shown us who he really is. This is something that Republicans do so well that Democrats don't. Look at how many gaffes that Trump had throughout his debates, and Republicans still rally around each other. So I think we need to stop their hand wringing and these distractions and come together for the convention in August. And then we've got work to do. Yes, there's no denying that. And Biden knows that more than anybody, and he's back on the campaign trail to do that work. He said when he falls down, he gets right back up again. We saw that immediately. He, went last night to the Waffle House. He went to a debate party and then was back on it again today. So I think we'll see more of that, Biden, and this will move on.
The New York Times has said that the president is engaged in a reckless gamble. I mean, there are down ballot races that matter here. I get what you're saying. I would argue that the stakes of the Dodgers and the president are a little bit different, but I get the analogy. I think people who were watching last night are familiar with a lot of the things that Trump was saying, some of the lies, some of the mistruths, whatever he was saying. But everybody was watching last night to see how Joe Biden performed. This was what people say was his one task. And you're saying it was a bad night for him. Is it a bad night for him, or is this how he is these days?
I think it was a bad night for him. We haven't seen that before. And we just saw him in March giving the State of the Union. And he was so energetic and fired up for probably more than 2 hours and stayed until they literally had to turn off the lights in the House chambers to get everybody out of there. So I think it was one bad night. Yeah, I think the stakes were high. People, they wanted to see him come out swinging, and he didn't do that. But I don't think that one debate is going to determine the election. And I question whether how many voters are going to care about one debate performance as opposed to everything that we have seen Joe Biden do as president and the things that we have seen Donald Trump do when he was president, which was disastrous. And that we know that he is going to come back full force to basically destroy democracy even worse than he did before when he was president. So I think the choice is very clear here.
All right. Marsha Espinoza, thank you so much for taking the time. We appreciate it. And now to that major Supreme Court ruling limiting what charges can be brought against defendants accused in the January 6th attack on the Capitol. The decision potentially affects hundreds of prosecutions, including charges against former President Trump. ABC's Terry Moran is at the Supreme Court.
Tonight, a potentially big win at the Supreme Court for some of the January 6th defendants, including Donald Trump. By a 6-3 vote, the court significantly limited the reach of one of the charges brought against many January 6th rioters in a ruling that could impact the election interference prosecution against Trump. The case was brought by former Pennsylvania police officer Joseph Fisher, who stormed the Capitol on January 6th and was charged in part with obstruction. The specific law used by the Justice Department makes it a crime to alter or destroy documents and records to be used in official proceedings, or otherwise obstruct any official proceeding. That law, passed after the Enron scandal, was originally written to prosecute business and financial crimes. The question at the court, could it be used against those storming the Capitol who were trying to obstruct the certification of the 2020 election? The court's answer, no. Chief Justice John Roberts, writing for the conservatives, and liberal Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, ruling that prosecutors went too far and cannot transform this evidence-focused statute into a one-size-fits-all solution to obstruction of justice, adding that prosecutors must prove a defendant somehow tampered with documentary evidence. Justice Amy Coney Barrett, who joined the liberal justices in dissent, pushed back, acknowledging that the law was written in the business crime context, but writing, admittedly, events like January 6th were not its target. Who could blame Congress for that failure of imagination? But statutes often go further than the problem that inspired them. Trump heralded the decision on social media, calling it big news for the January 6th defendants he celebrated on the debate stage and whom he's vowed to pardon as president.
Those people have been treated so badly. So we're asking, based on the decision, they should immediately be released, immediately, the J6 hostages.
Tonight, the Justice Department says today's decision will not affect the vast majority of January 6th defendants' cases, and it will take appropriate steps to comply with the ruling. Of the more than 1,400 January 6th defendants, 52 have been convicted on this charge. 27 are currently serving time. No one, including Fisher, was only charged with obstruction.
Our thanks to Terry Moran for that from the Supreme Court. Also, the Supreme Court has upheld an Oregon city's ban on homeless people sleeping outdoors. In a decision that is expected to have ripple effects nationwide, justices ruled today that a local ordinance to bar anyone without a permanent residence from sleeping outdoors does not amount to cruel and unusual punishment under the 8th Amendment. The 6-3 opinion, authored by Justice Neil Gorsuch, reversed an appeals court ruling that found an outdoor camping ban in Grants Pass, Oregon, to be unconstitutional. Another Supreme Court ruling today could have the biggest impact in a generation on the government's ability to regulate. For more, we're joined by our Devin Dwyer. Devin, explain the decision first for us.
Phil, for 40 years, the Supreme Court has given a lot of leeway to federal agencies in how they regulate every aspect of our lives, from workplace safety to food and drug inspections, tax collection, environmental rules. You know, Congress writes the laws that direct agencies to do certain things, say collect data on the nation's fisheries, but the agency, like the Commerce Department, has to fill in the details on how to get that done. This was a case about challenging the agency's ability to fill in those details when the law is not clear. A group of herring fishermen who were challenging a government regulation that they pay the salaries of federal government inspectors on their boats said Congress never wrote that into the law. The agency said, well, it has leeway to say that it's okay. And what the Supreme Court said today is that when the law is silent or ambiguous about how something should be done, deference should no longer be given to those agencies, but instead a judge should be the one to decide, and that is going to have a major impact after 40 years of deference being given to these agencies. Now all those regulations, Phil, will be open to new interpretation and legal challenge because of this change in the way things are done.
So what is this going to mean then? What could this mean for millions of Americans?
We're talking tens of thousands of rules that govern all aspects of American life, as I was just saying. There could be huge rollbacks in a lot of those areas, and that would be a big win for the business lobby. They could stand to gain billions here, but environmental and public interest groups are sounding the alarm, Phil. They say the effects of this are going to take months, even years, to come into view, and here's how one of those advocates put it to me a short time ago.
What we'll see now is much less deference to the experts and scientists who look at all of that science and data and make those protection decisions. And instead, there will be court cases where judges are much more involved in the policy making of what those levels should be, how we should protect people, how we should conserve our environment.
Questions like, can there be mask or vaccine mandates? What types of emission controls must be on top of smokestacks? How are fish and wildlife populations supposed to be protected? Congress doesn't often spell out the nitty-gritty answers to those questions, and others, Phil. But what the Supreme Court said today is now no longer can the experts at those agencies get the benefit of the doubt in filling in the blanks. It needs to be courts, judges that will provide those answers, and that's a major, major change in American law, Phil.
Wow. It's been a pretty consequential term for this
Still
court.
Another day.
Yeah, you cover it all.
Monday.
It's been a busy couple weeks, and Monday I'm sure we'll be talking again. Devin, thanks so much.
You bet. Thanks, Phil.
Parents of the victims of the school massacre in Uvalde, Texas, are reacting to the first criminal indictments 2 years after that horrific day. ABC's Maria Villarreal is in Texas tonight.
Go. Tonight, the first criminal charges stemming from the massacre at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, that left 19 children and 2 teachers dead. Former school district police chief Pete Arredondo facing 10 counts of abandoning and endangering a child, one for each survivor for intentionally, knowingly, recklessly placing them in danger back in May of 2022.
Shots fired! Get inside!
For 77 agonizing minutes, teachers and students waited for help while Arredondo, seen here outside the classroom, and other officers swarmed the halls, but delayed breaching that classroom where an 18-year-old gunman was hunting and shooting children. Students calling 911, begging for help.
Please hurry. There's a lot of dead bodies.
Court documents saying after being advised that a child or children were injured in a class, Arredondo failed to respond as trained to an active shooter incident.
You were going to ask why you're taking so long.
Also charged tonight, former officer Adrian Gonzalez, one of the first inside the school.
There were failures as cops.
Uvalde families, including the parents of 10-year-old Tess Mata, still haunted by those police failures.
I just want them to every day remember Tess's name. I want them to look at her face every single day and realize what they didn't do was protect my daughter. They didn't protect her friends and her two teachers. I want them to live with that for the rest of their lives.
Our thanks to Maria Villarreal from Texas Tonight. There is some frightening news to report here in New York. A minivan crashed through a strip mall, killing at least 4 people and injuring 9. That minivan crashing into Hawaii Nail and Spa on Long Island this afternoon. All of those killed were inside the salon at the time. That crash is under investigation. Now to the big holiday travel rush already underway ahead of July 4th and the severe weather concern. Alex Perez reports.
Tonight, it's go time for millions of Americans taking off for the 4th, with record-breaking numbers of people packing airports from coast to coast.
Here at O'Hare and at airports across the country, some 32 million people are expected in all this holiday stretch. The airports are jam-packed. 3 million people expected today alone, the busiest day ever.
And it's looking like a record breaker on the roads, too. AAA says some 60 million will take their vacations by car. The national average for a gallon of regular, $3.50, about the same as this time last year. But of course, the wild card for travel, both in the air and on the road, is the weather.
Are we watching a tornado form right there?
These drivers in Jacksonville spotting a twister as it flipped a truck this morning.
Oh my gosh, oh my gosh.
Overnight, a confirmed tornado in Melbourne, Florida, destroyed multiple homes. In Moab, Utah, flash floods turned this highway into a waterfall, debris raining on drivers. The person who shot this video says it came out of nowhere.
Our thanks to Alex Perez. Meteorologist Lee Goldberg from our partner station WABC joins us now. Lee, those severe storms are moving in overnight?
Yeah, I mean, you have holiday headaches all the way from the plains all the way to the northeast over the weekend, unfortunately. So it's going over an area, highly populated area. We start out in the plains with damaging winds tonight, some small hail, and that'll go all the way into the Midwest. But I'm a little concerned about Kansas City because there's definitely a tornado risk there. There's some twisting and turning there. So have your mobile alerts on as we go through the night tonight. Make sure you have a plan to get to a place of safety. These will be moving through the Midwest into the Ohio Valley and Cleveland, Buffalo. Watch out tomorrow morning. Might be woken up by a storm. They'll continue to move through New York State and Pennsylvania, getting close to the Albany area down to Harrisburg during Saturday evening. They'll weaken, but probably reach the East Coast sometime late Saturday night. But it's more Sunday afternoon that I'm concerned about. Severe storms right along the I-95 corridor, whether it be some D.C. all the way up to New York City into the Boston area. So basically, it's Columbus to Scranton on Saturday, and then it's Richmond, New York, all the way up to Hartford and into Portland, Maine as we go into the day on Sunday. We'll wipe away the humidity with this front before it comes back in a big way for July 4th. One other note, we have Tropical Depression 2 newly formed. This is now forecast to become Beryl. Could even be a hurricane as we go through the end of the weekend as it approaches the Windward Island. We'll track it into the Caribbean next week. Phil?
All right, Lee, thanks so much. There's so much to get to here on Prime tonight. It's not just equal pay many black actresses are fighting for. They also have to fight to have someone qualified to do their hair on set.
There is a price to be paid every time a survivor shares their story.
I think it's so hard to live every day feeling like, like I must be broken.
I had just turned 14. And it was scary. It was scary. I will not be silenced.
This church has been alive for decades, and the next thing you know,
all hell breaks loose.
What is the 2x2 church?
It is a secret sect. It flies under the radar. If you don't agree with them, your salvation is at stake.
a stunning amount of information has come out about the misdeeds of some of the ministers. These same people preaching this message were the ones hiding horrific, horrific things.
Do you feel the church accepted abuse?
I wouldn't say accepted it as so much pretended it didn't exist.
Yep, that's him.
Yep.
Ready? Kira Phillips with ABC News. Did you sexually abuse Sherry Autry when she was 14 and you were 28?
No comment.
Do you believe your church protected you? Does your church protect sexual predators?
The powerful new Impact by Nightline. So the church saw itself as judge and jury.
There's nothing pretty about hearing this.
Secrets of the 2x2 Church. Now streaming only on Hulu.
Are you ready to celebrate? Sunday, June 30th, across the country. See, experience some of the nation's greatest pride celebrations all in one place as they happen live right here on ABC News Live. Pride across America. Celebrate joy, love, freedom, and pride. Sunday, June 30th, starting at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Streaming on ABC News Live and stream on Hulu. Here's to Good Mornings in America.
Can you feel the love?
Oh, yeah. Mornings that inspire, filled with hope, kindness, joyous surprises, and so much fun.
This is crazy. This is absolutely crazy.
Start your day with Good Morning America's Ray of Sunshine, highlighting the best of America and helping
make dreams come true.
Wow.
I'm just so happy. It's so good.
Get ready to smile and put the good into your morning, America, because
you know what will make the morning better? A little ray of sunshine.
Let's go.
The ship is incredible. It feels like living in a science fiction movie.
We just saw what no one has seen before.
Wow, look at that.
Oh my gosh.
Well, dead ahead. Tag on!
We are heading into the unknown.
Hammer, hammer, hammer. It doesn't get any more cutting edge than this.
Welcome back. The fight for racial equality on film and TV sets has been quietly raging in Hollywood for some time now, with some actors of color saying they often have to deal with makeup and hairstylists who aren't trained or qualified to properly manage their looks. Megan Wright has that story in tonight's Prime Focus.
Just lining myself up.
This is how actress Tati Gabrielle says she's freeing herself from Hollywood's beauty bias.
I'm not a barber.
The 28-year-old, known for films and TV shows like Netflix's Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, says she made the decision to take clippers to her crown after years of bad experiences on sets.
Your appearance is not something you want to be worried about, right?
When I first did Chilling Adventures of Sabrina on Netflix, I get to set for our sort of pre-production and things, and the woman that they had assigned to do my hair, she's not able to. It came down to, oh, okay, well, I'll do the front and you do the back.
But going above and beyond came with a price.
They didn't work it into my time schedule, so I had to do it at home and then come to set. So if my call time was 4 a.m., I was up at 1:30. Look, it's straight ahead, this way.
She's one of many high-profile actors of color saying there are hairstylists in Hollywood that lack knowledge about black hair, and that sets them up to fail. Bring It On icon Gabrielle Union famously keeping it real.
I'm a black actress and producer in Hollywood. Of course I have to put my glam team in my contract, because...
Stories of hair nightmares popping up in headlines and on social media feeds.
I thought we were doing better in Hollywood, because somebody has some explaining to do in the hair and wardrobe department.
There are so many layers, and somebody can just say, well, it's just hair.
It just comes down to that for me to ask for equal treatment, and I have somebody that can do my hair and makeup properly, like, shouldn't immediately be me being a diva and me being like an angry black woman. Stubborn mutt. I watched back the first episode of my character in Sabrina, where you can see the back of my head, and it looks wild. And I talked to my producer and I was like, hey, how about we just shave my head to just end the problem?
Now, momentum for change in Hollywood and beyond.
When do we want it?
SAG-AFTRA, the actors union, and Hollywood studios negotiating a new contract at the end of last year. For the first time ever, inking clauses for equity and inclusion in hair and makeup into the deal. Now, with so much at stake, advocates for diversity waiting to see how the contract plays out in real life.
How does it feel to know that as a Black woman, in order to get equal treatment, it has to be written in a contract?
I think it's ridiculous. I think it's so ridiculous. I have to put it in writing? Like, are you kidding?
Under the new deal, actors can ask for any hair and makeup needs, including appropriate hair and makeup products. And if production can't do that, the actor is reimbursed for obtaining services and compensated for time.
Creating enough noise eventually led to us having codified language within our theatrical and our commercial contracts.
Tiffany Yvonne Cox stars in the Hulu series Reasonable Doubt, a Black legal drama executive produced in part by Kerry Washington.
Live your life and have fun in the sun.
Her research was key to help SAG negotiate for change in the latest round of contracts for the multitude of Black, mixed race, and ethnic actors with African roots and ancestry.
I asked friends to anonymously share with me the stories that they had from their experiences on set. Little did I know I would end up with a significantly thick packet of stories. And that went from the A-list down to the person who has one line in a show.
The actress says these stories are so harmful because they are rooted in Hollywood's not-so-inclusive past.
I think it's a lack of education, and I also think it's a lack of awareness. But I am going to call a spade a spade. There is a level of racism that's within there that has unfortunately been institutionalized when it comes to this conversation.
But Cox pointing out that background actors, typically those without speaking roles, are not included in the Hollywood agreement.
So it's absolutely painful to know that some of us get it, but some of us don't. Everybody deserves to have equal treatment.
Cox is now advocating for nationwide action and says progress is already being made. In the past several weeks, lawmakers renewing efforts to turn the Crown Act, which makes race-based hair discrimination illegal, into a federal law after it failed votes in the Senate twice in 2019 and 2022. Connecticut and Minnesota joining New York in passing laws requiring cosmetology students to learn to style all hair textures. Bills in New Jersey and California are pending.
Not every story that I'm telling as a hairstylist and designer speaks to me and my experience. I don't come from the same place that the person next to me comes from.
Barry Lee Moe has been J-Lo's hairstylist and was the Emmy Award-winning department head on FX's Pose, a show that thrived off its wigs, its bold glamour, and diverse cast. He says the reaction from colleagues to the new contract have been mixed.
When I heard that the reaction to these clauses was somewhat negative from some people, thinking that it was trying to control the way that they hired their teams or to control the way they do business, it felt very strange to me. Why wouldn't you want every single person that steps into your trailer to be treated fairly and to have their hair and makeup looked after by professionals that are supposed to be leaders in their field?
For myself, I can't just be like a one-trick pony. I can't just only do textured hair, otherwise I wouldn't have a career.
Hollywood hairstylist Porshana Mosley, who's the head of the hair department for Criminal Minds, the hit police drama, and has spoken on diversity panels, was eager to lead the charge and immediately work the new contract into her routine.
Those consultations with the actors look like just me simply shooting a text, just getting their availability so we can actually come in person and do a test. A series of styles. That way we give options for the actor and then also the producer. Some of my colleagues trying to find a place like this is like finding a needle in a haystack.
And Mosley says there's a greater prize.
Curly and kinky textures on network TV. Sometimes we're asked to tone it down simply because the higher-ups feel like it's too much.
The potential for more authentic representation of people of color on screen. So far, seen mostly on a handful of top studio shows, like Issa Rae's Insecure and ABC's Blackish, with braids, cornrows, and twist-outs.
There are multiple conversations. There's panels happening all the time about kinky textures and seeing just like kinky straight hair on TV now.
For Tati Gabrielle, the actress cast in the modern Sabrina.
Come along.
Rebooted from the late 90s version that had a mostly white ensemble.
We did it! All right!
Equity still feels far away, but she is challenging Hollywood to speed up the change.
I am hopeful, but unfortunately very skeptical. Artists of color are not going away. There's only going to be more of us. So in regards to the contract, I'm really hoping that they adhere to what they're saying.
ABC News reached out to the team behind the chilling adventures of Sabrina, and they have not provided comment.
Do you ever become fearful of, like, speaking up and thinking, well, what if somebody doesn't want to hire me?
At times, yes, but at the same time, no, because if not, then what am I here for?
Our thanks to Megan for that. And still here on Prime tonight, how tourism can change a country in good ways and bad ways. And we take a look at last night's first presidential debate by the numbers.
If you were coming of age in the 1980s, the Brat Pack was near the center of your cultural awareness. But for those of us experiencing it from the inside, the Brat Pack was something very different. On June 10th, 1985, New York Magazine published Hollywood's Brat Pack. I just remember seeing that cover and thinking, oh. From then on, my career and the career of everyone who was involved was branded to the Brat Pack.
I'm really sorry that article had to come out.
I've never talked to anybody about what that was like. So I thought it might be interesting to try and contact everyone who was in the Brat Pack. Hey, Emilio Estevez. This is Andrew McCarthy calling you. Hey, Allie. Hey, Demi. Hey, Molly. Let's call Rob. Hello. Judd? Me? You around? You were not interested in talking about the Brat Pack for years.
I turned everything down.
How come you're talking to me?
Because you called me. It was time that we clear the air on a couple things.
I love your stuff, Bob. Hey, thank you. I hated the Brat Pack for decades. What a disaster. If you could have the Brat Pack name not exist, would you?
It really irritated me. They said, what's more important to you, the movie or your life? And I said,
the movie!
Andrew.
Have you talked to the others? The others, like, again, it feels like a cult or something.
Yeah. Why did we take it as an offense? Well, As opposed to like a brat. Because we were young.
We were afraid we were brats, you know? Are you in the Brat Pack?
I'm Brat Pack adjacent.
That's what I was saying.
I am not in the Brat Pack.
Crush on you back in the day?
You did not, Andrew. No, you did not.
Being in the Brat Pack not only changed all of our lives, it changed what entertainment is. I mean, I'm not going to say we were the Beatles or anything.
Well, we didn't fill Shea Stadium. There were moments.
We could have. 1985. I think we could have.
So what are you filming?
Oh, we're just doing this documentary.
What's it about?
Ancient history.
When it matters most, America turns to David Muir and ABC's World News Tonight.
All right, let the dogs out, please.
I don't think he's going to give you a hard time.
Even if he gives me a hard time, I'm the right guy. I want to make sure that we all learn together.
Calm, confident.
Calm, confident, calm, surrender.
Everything that he's taught has become a reality.
We are so grateful and impressed.
I feel like crying. You changed our world.
It is a beautiful thing to see. As you rehabilitate the dog, you also rehabilitate you.
Why do so many people start their day here?
From ABC News, this is Start Here.
To be in the know and get a different take on the day's top stories.
A lot of news today, so let's get into it.
Listen now to the Daily News Podcast honored with 4 Edward R. Murrow Awards and see why the New York Times calls it a news podcast worth listening to. Start Here, ABC News. Make it your daily first listen.
Now, that's a part of the story I bet you didn't see coming.
Wherever you get your podcasts, Start Here.
Reporting from the Normandy coast for the 80th anniversary of D-Day, I'm David Muir. Wherever the story is, we'll take you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
Welcome back. Our partners at 538, along with Ipsos, polled more than 2,500 voters, the same voters, in fact, both before and after last night's presidential debate. What they said is this evening's By the Numbers. On a scale of 1 to 5, likely voters gave Trump a 3.04 on his performance last night. Biden was rated 1.99 on that same scale of 1 to 5, considerably worse than Trump. 60% said Trump performed best, while only 21% said Biden did. And when asked to select 3 issues that would most impact their votes, 50% chose inflation or increasing costs. Rounding out the second and third issues, 37% chose immigration, while 25% chose political extremism or polarization. Last night's face-off didn't cause too many people to reconsider their vote, though. In fact, the big winner might have actually been RFK Jr., who went from 17.3% of likely voters before the debate, saying they were considering voting for him, to 18.4% after. Trump's support was nudged up a little bit by the debate, and Biden's support went down. RFK Jr., by the way, can qualify for the debate ABC is hosting in September if 15% of likely voters in 4 different polls say he's their man. He would also need ballot access in enough states to theoretically win 270 electoral votes. Lindsay Davis and David Muir will host that second debate right here on ABC on September 10th. And there is still much more ahead here on Prime. How does Trump's time in reality TV connect to his run for president? The new book that's highlighting a link between the two. And Sunday is the end of Pride Month for many, but next we're going to introduce you to a small town that celebrates year-round.
You're watching America's #1 streaming news. Keep streaming with ABC News Live.
I experienced a lot of rejection, a lot of heartache. I'm a tough woman, but it's not easy. I have my days where you gotta do whatever you can to crawl out of those dark holes. You're gonna feel lonely. There was a lot of personal stuff in my life that was really falling apart. It's taken me a really long time to even get to this moment. I feel like every pair of bell bottoms all come with a different story. 19 years old, pulling up to Nashville, I was terrified.
Not everybody makes it.
I was a fish out of water. At times, I was too country for country.
You were living in a trailer for a while.
I remember sitting out in this camper trailer, crying my eyes out, thinking, is it ever gonna happen? But Mom and Daddy didn't raise no quitter.
I have had the hardest 2 months of my life.
My daddy has not been doing well. We've been through a lot these past few years, and it kind of makes me emotional. Y'all gonna see me cry again. I was scrolling on TikTok. I noticed a few videos of my butt that had gone viral. At first, I was laughing, and I'm like, these people ain't right.
No matter what size you are beautiful.
Being a woman in country music can be tough.
And the CMA Award for Album of the Year
For Female Vocalist of the Year.
Entertainer of the Year
Goes to
Lainey Wilson.
That was a mic drop.
The Entertainer of the Year, baby!
Lainey's album, Bell Bottom Country, changed the game.
There ain't nothing better than this. Hold my beer, watch this.
What she is doing right now is changing country music.
I do see the bell bottoms and the hat as my superhero outfit.
Go, Lainey!
It's mind-blowing. It's magic.
I'm proud of myself. I really am. I have worked my ass off. Now it's time to see what's next.
That's what I'm talking about! Woo!
Now streaming on Hulu. I'm a rock and roll star. I'm not a saint. I'm John Bon Jovi. John Bon Jovi. The new special, what you have not yet seen. John Bon Jovi with Michael Strahan. Now streaming on Hulu.
You were the target of one of the biggest hoaxes in years.
Sherry Papini.
She was the love of his life. Now,
Keith Papini, after 7 years of silence, is sitting down. Is that evil, or is it just sick?
2020 tonight on ABC.
Ramin Satuda is the co-editor-in-chief of Variety magazine, who had the opportunity to interview Donald Trump 6 times, beginning shortly after Trump lost the 2020 election. The result of those interviews is his new book, Apprentice in Wonderland: How Donald Trump and Mark Burnett Took America Through the Looking Glass, which details Trump's rise as a reality TV star and how that ultimately propelled him to run for president. Ramin joins us now. Thank you so much. 2004, here's the book, by the way.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. 2004 was a time when Donald Trump was, sort of in the doghouse, floundering real estate at that time. There were multiple bankruptcies. TV producer Mark Burnett had to sort of reinvent him. How did he do that?
He reinvented him by making Donald Trump into America's next business hero. And my book traces how The Apprentice rebranded Donald Trump as from a New York celebrity into a national celebrity that everyone loved, with this catchphrase, "You're fired." Soon they were talking Donald Trump dolls, a Donald Trump board game, and people really loved The Apprentice. It was a huge show at the time because it made people feel smart and it made them feel like they could learn about business by watching the show. And Donald Trump was looking for the next great leader in business, which a lot of Americans also really liked.
Right, and he had this air. I remember when the show started, I interviewed him in 2004 as well when that started.
Yeah.
And he had this air of, if you are in this world, you too could be this rich. Mark Burnett, for those who don't know, is a big TV producer, and he did Survivor.
He created Survivor, and then The Apprentice was his next big hit.
Right. Now, you wanted to talk to him for this book, obviously.
I did.
He did not want to talk? Why?
He doesn't want to talk because he still wants people in Hollywood to like him. But he also wants Donald Trump to like him. So he's trying to actually, as a reality TV producer, he knows how to play all alliances. And so he tries to play to both sides. But he is in this book because I was trying to interview him for years. And I talk about our correspondences and our text messages, and I don't want to give it away, but you'll see the way he's woven into the book. And he is a huge character in this book.
Interesting. So we're, just about 4 months away from the election now, and from interviewing Trump, why do you feel it's important that people understand who Trump was in the decade before he ran for president?
One of the things I learned in my 6 interviews with Donald Trump is that he really views the world through the paradigm of reality TV. He likes to be a showman. He looks at show business as the ultimate currency and fame as the ultimate currency. And was really striking to me as I was sitting with him in Trump Tower in the months after he left the White House was that he was reliving all of his feuds. He was talking about how Deborah Messing was mean to him. He was talking about how Kim Kardashian betrayed him. He wasn't interested in legislation or thinking about his legacy or talking about what he accomplished as president. He's really someone who values fame first and foremost, and he is our first reality TV president for a reason.
Yeah, celebrity, we all know, he would be the first to tell you that celebrity is very important to him. Who people like, he wants to be liked, he wants to be accepted. You'd think someone who is president would feel accepted, but you say that's not really the case.
No, he feels like people turn their back on him. But what was alarming was that the former president of the United States was focused so much on feuds, and he wasn't really that interested in the legacy of the highest office in the land. He wasn't that interested in talking about what he accomplished as president, and he actually didn't seem that interested in governing.
You mentioned that he struggled remembering things. You actually called it a server memory issue. What did you mean by that?
So between our first and second conversations, Donald Trump didn't remember that we'd sat down and talked at all, which was a little strange for me. His memory was foggy, and he had issues remembering things in the short term. He was better at remembering things that had happened 20 years ago when he was host of The Apprentice versus things that had happened in recent times. And so because memory is such an issue on this campaign, it is one of the things about my book that people have talked about and asked me about. But Donald Trump struggled with short-term memory in the time that we spent together.
This is not going to surprise you, and I'm sure you've already seen this, but on X, the Trump campaign says, quote, "You're lying in a sad, desperate attempt to sell a book." We've heard him say that about other people who have written about him, things that perhaps he didn't like, but, your response to that.
Donald Trump is a great reality star, and the statement that he issued was right out of reality TV. He likes to stoke feuds and discredit people, and that's one of the reasons why he's been such a successful politician.
All right, Ramin, thanks so much for coming in, and thanks for talking to us about the book. Your book, Apprentice in Wonderland: How Donald Trump and Mark Burnett Took America Through the Looking Glass, is on sale now. June is Pride Month, and we are shining a spotlight on the small southern community that welcomes and celebrates LGBTQ+ people all year long. ABC's Christian Cordero with the story.
It's known as the town where misfits fit, which I sort of like. I like that. On a road that winds through the rolling hills of the Ozarks, far from the big city, you'll find a 7 stories tall statue of Jesus over a town dotted with pride flags year-round. Welcome to Eureka Springs, Arkansas, home to Zeke Taylor and Dick Titus.
What was it about Eureka Springs in particular that drew you here?
As an artist, I wanted to be with other artists. And of course, there are a lot of gay people in the arts.
First discovered by the Osage tribe for its healing waters, Eureka Springs was considered sacred long before it found its place in the Bible Belt. Everywhere you turn, you'll find nods to its past, but that doesn't stop it from paving the way for the future.
We were in Eureka Springs, and I remember we were outside. It was under the starlight and stuff, and she had told me she loved me.
It's like, you know, like it just comes out.
Jennifer and Kristen Seaton Rambo live in nearby Fort Smith. They were engaged when a judge legalized same-sex marriage in Arkansas on May 9th, 2014.
Her cousin called, and he had said he'd gotten a phone call about the Carroll County Courthouse opening up early in the morning, and you should probably get there.
Standing in line behind them, Zeke and Dick.
Did you ever think that you would get married?
No.
A 42-year-long engagement that day almost didn't end with marriage.
When the clerk showed up, she refused to issue license.
And why will you not issue our marriage license?
Because I have no authorization from anybody.
I'm a real mild-mannered. I hardly get mad. I was mad that day.
It was frightening to me, actually, to have the police and be asked to leave our courthouse. I'd never been treated that way before.
Like, we don't matter to you guys at all?
You can say you don't matter.
Yes, and y'all are closing the door in our face.
Get it done today.
Shortly after that, another clerk arrived, and with her help, Jennifer and Kristen became Arkansas's first same-sex couple to officially say, I do, widely considered the first in the South.
Here's your pretty license.
Zeke and Dick also made history as the first male couple in the South.
Now pronounce you legally married. Congratulations.
What was it like to hold that piece of paper in your hand?
Emotional. I cried.
The first feeling I get is gratitude because of the people, the amount of work that went into making it to where Kristen and I can live this so-called simple life that we like to live.
The clerk who refused to issue the licenses later said her boss, the county clerk, was out of town, so she requested input from the attorney general. After not hearing back, she decided to close the courthouse. In the decades since, Arkansas has been on the long list of states to propose what the ACLU calls anti-LGBTQ+ legislation. Regardless of state or national politics, life in Arkansas and Eureka Springs goes on.
They're not just accepting of LGBT, like it's the straight community, it's biker community. It seems like everyone there is just, they coexist.
A city that embraces its paradox, whose local tourism office sums itself up in 3 words: something for everyone.
There's some wonderful people who truly love and support us, and we want to keep that going for everyone.
Our thanks to Christian for that, and be sure to catch our ABC News Live special Pride Across America, where we'll go coast to coast featuring pride marches in New York City, Chicago, San Francisco, special interviews and inspiring stories spotlighting today's influential LGBTQ+ leaders. The fun kicks off Sunday, June 30th at 11 a.m. Eastern, right here on ABC News Live. We do hope you'll check it out. With summer underway, many of us are booking flights and heading out to see the world. But with global tourism at an all-time high, should we be looking for a deeper understanding of the implications of our wanderlust? Author and renowned journalist Paige McClanahan spotlights how tourism has shaped the world for better and for worse in her book, The New Tourist, Waking Up to the Power and Perils of Travel. Paige joins us now to talk about the book. It's good to see you. Thanks for taking the time to talk about the book. You dive into this term, the new tourist. New tourist, what does that mean first?
Yeah, so I think, tourism is something that we've been involved in for decades now, for centuries even. And I think it's time for us to really embrace a new approach to this phenomenon, which I see as an industry, but also so much more than an industry. I mean, tourism is the world's most important mover of human beings. We're going to have 1.5 billion international tourist arrivals this year. And, if we harness the power of tourism for good, for economic good, for social and cultural good, and even for environmental good, we can have an enormous positive impact in the world. But of course, tourism can do a lot of damage, and this is why it's really important that we take the time to educate ourselves about the impacts of our travels. And so the new tourist, as I see it, is somebody who opens their hearts and minds to the experiences that they have when they travel, and who also takes the time to educate themselves about the implications of their wanderlust.
Well, you talk about something that we've seen over the years. You say tourism can destroy the soul of a city or offer a new lease on life. Both are true. I'm wondering, what cities do you use as examples of both of those?
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much for that question, Phil. Yeah. I mean, let's start with a new lease on life. I love the example of Liverpool, a city in northern England, where, in the 70s and 80s and even the 90s, Liverpool was it was one of the poorest urban areas in Europe. It was really known for hard drugs and crime. It was nicknamed Smack City in the 80s. And it was really in the late 80s when the local government in Liverpool turned to tourism very explicitly as a way to revive the city's economy. And it did so in a way that has really worked for locals. It has really revived the Liverpool economy, has completely rebranded the city on the international stage, and has given this whole city a new lease on life. But then, of course, there are other examples. And one place that I visit, that I write about in the book, is Barcelona, where, of course, tourism has brought a lot of economic good to that city as well. It's kind of at a different point than Liverpool. Things kind of got a little bit, maybe I would say they grew too quickly, too much too quickly, and the government was a little bit behind in imposing the kind of regulations they needed to impose to ensure that tourism in Barcelona didn't negatively impact the residents' way of life. So yeah, we have examples on both ends of the spectrum, and so which is why it's really important for us to understand these nuances as tourists.
Lastly, I know this question may not be as difficult as asking you to choose a favorite child, because we don't do that, but you've traveled so many places around the world, and I'm just curious, with all that under your belt, what's your favorite place and why?
Oh my gosh. I'm going to have to say my favorite place that I've traveled to is maybe cheating because I also lived there. I would say the country of Kenya. I lived in Nairobi, Kenya for 4 years. It's a beautiful country, so much, of course, wilderness and nature to explore, but also so much rich culture and so much rich history and heritage, and just such a welcoming and warm and loving people. And Swahili is such a beautiful language. And there's some really wonderful cuisine, especially down along the coast. I would really encourage anybody to head out to Kenya if you haven't made it there yet. I love the country very much.
I would love to get there, and that's something I definitely want to do. Thank you for that, and thank you for the book. Be great to read on a plane maybe while you're traveling somewhere. Thanks so much for joining us. We want to let our viewers know that The New Tourist, Waking Up to the Power and Perils of Travel, is now available wherever books are sold. And that's our show for tonight. I'm Phil Lipoff. ABC News Live is here for you all night with the latest news, context, and analysis. And you can always find us on Hulu, Roku, Pluto TV, the ABC News app, and, of course, abcnews.com. Have a good night.
Boop.